maintenant, parce que je suis le Français qui peut aller au marché, acheter des bananes, des pommes, comme ça. Mais je vais parler en anglais. Okay. So, I just want to address ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome the ministers for social protection, for basic development, all the parliamentarians that are here, and the General Secretary of the Trade Union, the civil society organizations, the Federation of People with Disability, and the media, the Organization of Older People, and everybody else who is here, all protocol observed. You are welcome to this wonderful meeting. We want to thank Dr. Disney for organizing this meeting at a very short notice. I want to thank you very much for taking your time to participate in this important meeting, which is aimed to get us to be deliberately engaged on the discussions around social protection in this country. So that is the aim of this meeting, that all of us need to be engaged in aspects of social protection. Your prioritizing this meeting demonstrates that you are committed to social protection or to the welfare of your people. That is how you find yourself here. I want to inform you, ladies and gentlemen, that over a period of time, the Africa Protection for Social Protection has been engaged in research and discussions with the African Union and the African governments on how citizens in Africa can enjoy a life of dignity, a life of good well-being, and a life free of poverty. That has been the key question that has been addressed over a period of time. There's research and these fruitful discussions over this agenda of how we can ensure that Africans live a dignified life has resulted in what you are going to hear today, what we are calling the African Union Protocol on Social Protection and Social Security. And I want to say that we have a representative from African Union with whom our director has been working on this particular aspect for a period of time, and he's going to tell us everything as much as we can about this protocol, this solution, this way that we want everyone to engage in. And so our organization, which is called Africa Platform on Social Protection, is a Pan-African organization, non-governmental organization with a secretariat in Kenya, in Nairobi, Kenya. And we work with governments, the private sector, development agencies, the research institutions, and grassroots communities in Africa by designing, testing, and delivering appropriate poverty alleviation models to the poor and the undeserved communities through social protection programs. So we have social protection programs aimed to alleviate poverty, and we have tested several models. We create partnerships with civil society and other organizations to engage the governments, and that is why you are here, and international agencies to develop and implement innovative social protection strategies and programs to make a difference in the improvement of the poor and vulnerable households in Africa. In Togo, we work with l'Association Semons En Afrique. And for more information about the Africa Union, about the APSP organization, we can show you, can give you a website where you can see what we do. But ladies and gentlemen, today the objective of this meeting is to create a momentum. And we want you to be part of this momentum so that you can get your government to ratify this particular protocol that we are going to hear from our representative from the African Union. So the protocol cannot come into force unless the TOGO government ratifies. So you are the people that we are counting on. We, the African Platform on Social Protection, aim to do this in at least 15 African countries. We work with 27 platforms, but we want to do this ratification in at least 15 countries. And we are hoping that you're going to join us. At the end of this meeting, we hope to have a plan of action where you will commit yourself to work with your government so that you ensure that they ratify this protocol and it becomes into operation. So ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a nice and fruitful meeting, and I hope by the end of the day that we shall be able to have created this momentum of people that will work together. Thank you very much. Welcome to the meeting.
I now want to invite our brother Lefoko from my AU Secretariat to give us the board.
Honorable members of parliament here represented and representatives from all government ministries, members of the CSOs and other organizations. As it has been mentioned, my name is Lefoko Kesama from the African Union Commission, which is based in Addis Ababa. That is the Secretariat of the African Union. Let me start by bringing greetings from the Commissioner of Health, Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development, Excellency Ambassador Minata Sayusuma Simate, and also because of the importance of this meeting, I'm here, and I'm not going to be that long because a lot of beautiful information has been mentioned by the board member of APSP. And let me say that the African Union Commission and the department that I come from really takes this half-day meeting very seriously and recognizes its importance. And I would like to mention that as your secretariat, social protection and social policy are very, very critical, especially after coming out of the devastating effects of COVID-19. It is intended to ensure that the next disaster or pandemic, we are ready and we know what we are going to do. But I would like to also recognize the resilience of Africa and Africans and our African governments. You did very, very well, very, very well, extremely very, very well. You may recall how the West and other countries thought that we are going to be wiped out, and it goes on to show that we are doing something for our people and for our continent and for our countries. This is something that we need to recognize, because most of the time you watch the news, you listen to the news, you hear and you read. Most of the things are so negative about us, and we want people from outside to speak well about us, and they won't. Let us celebrate what we have achieved and let us celebrate what we do, however little it may be, because it will also help us to build something that each of the 55 countries, we should be able to speak something about social protection of Togo in particular, and to say that this is where we are going, this is what we have achieved, and this is what we would like to achieve going forward. And I know that as Parliament sees, definitely everyone will have access to land. Very, very critical, because without land, you won't be able to survive. Everyone will have access to clean water, drinkable water. Everyone will have access to adequate health services. I'm just showing you how important this meeting is. And social protection cuts across all government ministries. We exist for our people. We don't exist for programs. We don't exist for political rallies, isn't it? We do the political rallies so that we can get that position and then implement what we stand for. So I would like to say that we look forward to, of course, a fruitful discussion, a fruitful interaction as we look at ourselves as Africans and looking at going forward to Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. And that Africa we want, as I conclude, it can only be realized by everyone and each one of you, including the media in this house. As you write stories, as you show stories, as you expose some of the things that are wrong, let us remember we are building Africa, we are not destroying this Africa. So that this generation, when the coming generations look back in 2063, they will say, yes, I read somewhere that there was a workshop in Lomé, Togo, on the 12th of September 2023, and I can see its result today, because I've got a better Africa than the Africa that they had. So each one of you contributes to this Africa we want. It doesn't matter how little it may be, but this is the Africa we want, and we are building it for the coming generations. And they are going to be riding on our shoulders and on our success as we go forward. Let us move this Africa together, and Togo is going to contribute towards the moving of this Africa. Whatever you do in Parliament, the media, the CSOs, and everyone. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Foucault. You already went out the key issues and what we are here. And I think that's your call, everybody here, and we hope at the end of the day, you will see the commitments of Togolese about this Africa that we want, and then we want to build for the next generation. So I would like now to turn to the Secretariat of Semons En Afrique, who is one of the partners of the Africa Forum for Social Protection in Togo, and who invites us, plus the matter of social protection platform in Africa. So I'm now turning to the secretaries who are going to deliver a message to us. So,
chers participants, chères participantes, chers membres de la société civile, chers invités, partenaires techniques et financiers, chers secrétaires généraux, monsieur le représentant du patronat, messieurs et mesdames les représentants des différentes structures gouvernementales, honorables députés, je vous prie de recevoir nos salutations fraternelles et vous remercie d'être présents ici malgré vos emplois du temps très chargés. Cette activité que nous tenons est la concrétisation de notre volonté à œuvrer dans le sens de la politique du chef de l'État togolais, de son gouvernement, permettant de promouvoir la protection sociale pour tous. Il s'agit d'une rencontre très importante pour le Togo et toute l'Afrique. Comme vous le savez certainement, en 2022, l'Union africaine a adopté un protocole historique à la Charte africaine des droits de l'homme et des peuples relatif aux droits des citoyens, à la protection sociale et à la sécurité sociale. Le protocole réaffirme que la protection sociale est un droit internationalement reconnu, inscrit dans les valeurs fondamentales de l'Union africaine et décrit les responsabilités incombant au gouvernement d'assurer une protection sociale adéquate, comme le prévoient les normes internationales du travail, et de garantir la bonne gouvernance des systèmes de protection sociale. Il s'agit pour nous aujourd'hui d'informer toutes les forces potentielles de la nation susceptibles de soutenir le gouvernement pour qu'elles comprennent le bien fondé du protocole, de se mobiliser pour son adoption par notre pays. Par cet acte, nous espérons donner toute la capacité de pouvoir agir légalement et facilement pour le bien-être de tous aux dirigeants de notre pays. Ici, nous avons entre nos mains un instrument voulu et souhaité par tous les gouvernants africains et adapté à nos réalités africaines. Nous espérons pouvoir compter sur vous comme des maillons pour que le Togo ratifie ce protocole. La présence des membres du Parlement n'est pas fortuite. Ils sont un maillon et doivent également être au courant de notre démarche citoyenne afin de réagir positivement et inciter le gouvernement à poser des actes dans le but de ratifier ce protocole. Mettre ensemble nos moyens afin d'atteindre nos objectifs, c'est ce que les trois organisations souhaitent. Notre mission, c'est ce qui doit vous stimuler. Travailler en synergie, le processus est lancé, nous devons le consolider. Il est donc nécessaire d'aller ensemble. Le dialogue social, c'est par nous et ensemble, avec un sociétariat, que avec un sociétariat, s'il vous plaît, de nos réseaux au niveau national. Nous espérons que les informations partagées aideront à mieux appréhender les enjeux de la protection sociale dans notre pays, le Togo, ainsi que l'urgence de la ratification du protocole. Je vous remercie.
Je suis à la fois le chairman et également, donc, on voudrait remercier Semons En Afrique pour sa démarche citoyenne qui nous invite donc à jouer notre partition auprès de notre gouvernement et qui a donc fait venir ici les personnes clés pour nous rappeler que le Togo a été pendant plus de 6 ans partie prenante de l'écriture des discussions sur ce protocole. Et nous, en tant que citoyens et citoyennes, nous devons être informés du contenu afin d'aider ceux qui nous gouvernent et ceux qui également, au niveau donc, qui sont le pouvoir, c'est-à-dire le Parlement, à également être informés et nous aider à aider notre gouvernement, je répète, en utilisant le même vocabulaire, à atteindre ces objectifs. Le programme social du chef de l'État togolais, l'ONG Semons En Afrique en a fait donc un de ses piliers et voudrait donc contribuer en tant qu'organisation vivant dans le pays, agissant au nom des citoyens et citoyennes pour que le chef de l'État puisse atteindre la protection sociale pour tous, pour lequel il a œuvré, répété dans tous ses programmes et pour lequel il travaille. Nous vous remercions pour cet engagement. Et je vais maintenant prendre la parole au nom de l'Organisation régionale africaine syndicale, l'Organisation démocratique syndicale africaine. Donc, je suis le docteur Justin Taizonou, en charge donc des questions de protection sociale et des questions d'égalité entre les hommes et les femmes au niveau donc, de l'Organisation régionale africaine de la Confédération syndicale internationale. Je suis également, disons, membre de Semons En Afrique en tant que présidente de cette organisation. Et je voudrais joindre ma voix aux uns et aux autres qui m'ont précédé pour donc, chers participantes et chers participants, chers représentants des différentes organisations ici présentes, chers secrétaires généraux, chers leaders, chers frères les focaux de l'Union africaine, chère Madame Doli de l'Association de la plateforme africaine de la protection sociale, chers représentants du gouvernement togolais et institutions nationales et régionales, ici présents, honorables députés. Au nom du secrétaire général de la CSI Afrique, le camarade Christy Adoua Amankwa, et au nom des 54 pays et des 101 organisations affiliées, dont nous avons 5 au Togo ici, je voudrais vous prier donc de recevoir nos salutations fraternelles et militantes. Nous tenons à saluer donc les camarades de nos organisations affiliées, la CSTT, la CNTT, l'UGSL, l'UCIT et leurs secrétaires généraux, ainsi que les leaders des organisations sénégalaises sœurs, je veux nommer donc la STT, la CSA et la CGST. La CSI Afrique, soucieuse de renforcer les capacités de ses affiliés, afin qu'elles constituent des forces de proposition et de construction, continue de rechercher les meilleures stratégies d'y arriver. Elle s'est donc engagée aux côtés des 2 organisations ici présentes qui partagent la même mission qu'elle dans le domaine de la protection sociale, dans la consolidation des engagements de la société civile pour garantir la protection sociale pour tous et faire une différence dans la vie des citoyens et citoyennes dans ce pays, le Togo. Elle souhaite accompagner tous les acteurs engagés à renforcer leur capacité à influencer le processus décisionnel au niveau national pour la ratification et la mise en œuvre du protocole de l'Union africaine sur la protection sociale et la sécurité sociale. La protection sociale est aujourd'hui l'un des piliers les plus importants pour le développement de l'Afrique et de tout être humain. Y avoir accès ne doit plus être un privilège, mais un droit. La justice sociale est pour nous capitale et à aucun moment, la protection que nous appelons de tous nos voeux ne doit pas être exclusive. C'est pourquoi garantir son accès à travers la protection sociale reste pour la CSI Afrique une priorité. Mais l'étendre en même temps aux acteurs et actrices de l'économie informelle, qui constituent plus de 80% de nos populations en Afrique, en leur offrant toutes les garanties, reste notre défi. Dès lors, la ratification du protocole à la Charte africaine des droits de l'homme et des peuples sur les droits des citoyens à la protection sociale et à la sécurité sociale devient une urgence. Le dialogue social, outil privilégié par le mouvement syndical, doit être pour nous inclusif dans un environnement favorable. Nous ne devons pas perdre de vue que nous sommes tous des travailleurs et travailleuses. Nous avons besoin tous de protection sociale et de respect de nos droits et par conséquent assurer une synergie dans un dialogue qui nous permet de conjuguer nos efforts comme c'est le cas de cette journée pour la ratification du protocole. Que l'esprit de solidarité préside nos travaux. Je vous remercie. Voilà, ainsi dit, ainsi fait, nous avons essayé d'être assez courts. Nous venons de finir l'ouverture officielle. Je déclare donc ouverte cette journée. Nous venons donc de finir cela et nous allons rentrer tout de suite dans le vif du sujet. Nous allons écouter notre ami de l'Union africaine, qu'il fasse rapidement, donc, qu'il nous présente ce protocole-là et nous donne les principes clés, son link avec l'agenda social 2063, les principes clés du protocole et ce qu'on attend de nous aujourd'hui. Voilà, dear Brother Lefoko, I want now to invite you to deliver your presentation. You have a floor, and I think that in 20 minutes, as I know you, you will present it and then you will be able to ask you some questions that you are expecting to. Yes. Okay, good luck.
Okay, thank you so much, and let me also, I want to make sure that all of you are connected to the interpretation facility. Thank you. No, let me just say this is an honor actually to be in this beautiful country. I've been here before, so one of the places that I enjoy visiting when I'm in TOGO is the central market. It's one of the beautiful places. I just go through the market and enjoy seeing how you do business in TOGO. Thank you. As it has been mentioned, I'm an officer responsible for about 5 programs at the African Union Commission. One is disability rights in Africa. The other is aging. The other one is the family in Africa, which I took over just recently. It's one of the programs of Africa. It's one of the unique programs worldwide, globally, that Africa is contributing towards. And for your information, the UN is looking forward to Africa to preserve the family. We are the only region of the UN, if I may digress a bit, that has got a policy on the family. Other regions are looking at Africa. And this is something that is positive that we need also to appreciate. We exist because of the family. And the other one is, of course, social protection and social policy. And I'm here to, of course, take you through at least these 2 subjects of the social protection and social policy. But before I do that, let me just share something that should be able to take us through this. How are policies and treaties developed in the African Union? They come because of the decisions that are taken primarily at ministerial level. The ministers that deals with social protection and social policy, for instance, they are called the Specialized Technical Committee, or an STC, which is a ministerial meeting on social development, labor and employment, and they meet every 2 years. The next meeting is next year. After they have taken a decision, the decision goes to the Ministers of Foreign Affairs. They are called the Executive Council. And they endorse the decision if it is agreeable. And then, of course, if it is a legal instrument and it has been drafted and taken through all the processes, a legal instrument like a protocol or a treaty or a convention then goes to another ministerial meeting of justice and legal affairs. Therefore, I wanted so that you appreciate. I will always say, these are AU and documents. This by AU you do yourselves. I happen to be your employee. You pay me every month to serve you. So you are the AU. I am from the Commission, which is the Secretariat. There are other organs like the Pan-African Parliament, which is in South Africa, the Human Rights Court, which is in Banjul, and the court, which is in Arusha, Tanzania. Those are organs of the African Union, and they are the ones that build the body to move the union forward. And I happen to come from the Secretariat. And the Secretariat, of course, one of the things is to organize ministerial meetings, also to organize a summit of heads of state. Now, after a decision has been taken, the Secretariat and the department responsible has to find resources and draft whether the policy or a treaty or a strategy, whatever has been requested by the Ministers of Social Development, Labor and Employment in this case. And thereafter, a document is taken through validation processes. And the validation process includes everyone or representatives from those sectors that are of interest to that particular subject matter. I'm taking a few minutes to explain this so that you appreciate how things are done. That when you see a document coming to Parliament or to the Ministry and all that, it is not our document. You send us to draft it for you so that you adopt it and then you endorse it and thereafter you implement it. Our job, after we have drafted it, we have endorsed it, we have adopted it as per the processes of the organization, that is your organization. Our work ends there, except that thereafter we have to mobilize, you have to advocate that it should be implemented. But the implementation rests with you. I think I have said a lot about this. Some of these things, of course, I will share this. You see how you work around it because it's written in a language which is foreign to Togo. So, but I will leave it with you. You look at it later. So I'm going to skip some of the things, but the AU Social Agenda 2063 was adopted in January 2020. And this protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. Remember, the protocol gets its legitimacy or its meaning from the Human Rights Charter, which is Secretariat is in Banjul. So it provides there in the Human Rights Charter of Africa that whenever it is necessary, let us adopt and develop certain treaties that will expound that human rights section of that charter. So we are simply, because any treaty of the African Union or protocol or convention cannot stand on its own. It gets its legitimacy from the Human Rights Charter, which was adopted, of course, many years ago. Therefore, that is why it is called the Protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, on the rights of citizens to social protection and social security. So all of them, whether it is the Maputo Protocol, the one on women, or the Protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, on the rights of older persons in Africa, which was adopted in 2016, or the African Charter, or the Protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, on the rights of persons with disabilities in Africa, which was adopted in 2018. All of them, they get their authority, their legitimacy. You know, I will leave that to the legal people, they know what the right terms. They get their authority or legitimacy or from the Human Rights Charter of Africa. So I took a bit of time, but it was adopted in January 2020. Now, let me just take you through let me just take you through the AU Social Agenda 2063, so that you appreciate how you are going to implement the protocol and why you should also ratify this protocol. Of course, there is a signing of the protocol when it has been adopted by heads of state. The protocol, since it's a legal instrument, after it has been adopted by ministers of justice and legal affairs, it is endorsed by heads of state, not by ministers of foreign affairs. While policies and strategies and all that, those are endorsed by ministers of foreign affairs. They are called the executive council. Thereafter, then you can implement it. It can be implemented. But the protocol has to be ratified. But part of ratification, of course, is the signing. You can sign without ratifying. I mean, you can ratify without signing, the other way around, sorry. But signing means, shows the intent, the interest, the intent of ratifying that, yes, this is a good instrument, but it will not make it to get into force. I want you to get it very, very clear. Signing is just the first step of showing intent and commitment. But ratification is to say we are committed to ensure that the rights that are in this legal instruments are going to be enjoyed by the citizens of Togo, starting with the first citizen, the president, to everyone, because I don't think there is any last citizen. Because after the first citizen, all of us, we are equal under the president. I don't know in Togo, the MP will correct me. And therefore, the reason why I'm emphasizing this point is for us to appreciate that the policy and the treaty are different in that respect. And obviously, the policy is very, very important, because the treaty is meant to give legal power to that which is contained in the policy. If you here in Togo, someone says, I don't have access to adequate health services. If that person wants to enjoy, to enforce their rights, they will go to the law, because the law will say that every citizen of Togo has to have access to shelter or to drinkable and potable water, as an example. So they go to the law, because it is pronounced somewhere that it's a right, and it has been explained in the policy, and therefore the law gives it that legal statement. Having said this, let me just take you through this very important why Social Agenda 2063. In 2013, the African Union developed an overarching strategy to move Africa for the next 50 years. And in 2015, it was adopted, and it's called Agenda 2063. In that Agenda 2063, the ministers of social development, labor and employment, they discovered that this human and social development aspect of Africa is not well covered. So they requested the Secretariat, that is ourselves, or us, to develop a social agenda 2063. So the difference is that this one is social agenda. The other one, which is overarching, is Agenda 2063. It covers everyone. But this one covers the social development aspect of Africa. And therefore, it specifically provides the strategic direction to achieve the key social policy objectives of AU's Agenda 2063. It emphasizes and clearly spells out the social aspects of Agenda 2063. I think this is a clear, I can pass. So it has got, of course, all that's the table of contents. These ones are not that, but it has got what we call cross-cutting factors, demographical changes, the demographical changes of Africa, or demographic changes in Africa are very, very critical. Of course, it is said that 60% of the population of Africa is youth. 60% is youth. And therefore, it is very, very important to have that in the population. There is environmental sustainability. There is also a migration and urbanization. There is rural development. And the reason why I'm saying this is that I want to build the foundation for social protection. The family policy is very critical, as you can see. Gender equality is very critical. Social protection, which I'm going to go into, is very critical as well. You see it there. And universal access to basic societal services or utilities like water, sanitation, access to quality, inclusive education. We talk about quality, inclusive education. We don't only talk about education, that it includes everyone, including people with disabilities. Access to good and inclusive health and wellness, access to sufficient and nutritious food, formal labor markets and entrepreneurship, informal and rural economy. And in conclusion, Social Agenda 2063 spells out the investments needed into people of Africa, the main influence who will realize the Africa we want. And it will not be new technology, neither Africa's natural resources, nor more commodities to trade, but Africa's people who will realize Agenda 2063. Let me just emphasize this point. It is very, very important, fellow Africans, to realize that economic development, infrastructure, etc., that don't touch the lives of the African people will never move this continent forward. You may have beautiful roads like you have them here. You may have beautiful buildings that you have here. You may have beautiful whatever that you have here. As long as they don't affect positively their lives, everyone, and I'm talking about citizens of Africa, Togo will never go anywhere. There will still be poverty, there will still be need, there will still be everything you can think of. I'm emphasizing this because sometimes when you go to any country, you look at the GDP. The GDP, you look at maybe the resources that the country has. The resources have to be interpreted and be understood through the way they affect the common man. Somewhere in a village in this country, if the common person is still in poverty, they don't have clothing, they don't have shelter, they don't have access to social protection, they don't have access to water, they don't have access to justice, equal justice for everyone. Let me say to you, that country is still underdeveloped. It doesn't matter all these other things. The development of any country is seen in the people, persons with disabilities, older persons, children, etc. Beyond that, then it will be the development of a select few who have access to all those. Now, let me now go to this protocol. The protocol to the African Charter on Women and People's Rights, on the rights of citizens to social protection and social security. Now, it is saying the protocol to the African Charter on the rights of citizens underline that word, citizens of Africa. So it is simply saying, when the ministers coined this title, they were saying, citizens here means the citizens of Africa, not only the citizens of Togo. So if I am here in your country, I have to enjoy equal access to social protection of Togo. You should not say, hey, you are a citizen of Botswana or Kenya. It is talking about the African citizens, refugees, migrants. What are the other people who may not be Togolese, but they find themselves here? People who are working here, as long as they are in Togo, this protocol is saying that they should enjoy equal access to social protection and social security in Togo. You can see that Africa is moving, and it is the only protocol continental. Actually, Europe, America, Asia, etc., even South America, they are saying, are you serious, Africans? And this is where we want to move this continent. That every African citizen, wherever they are, they should enjoy social protection. And it should be portable. I think they know how to explain it, those in labor and employment and the labor movement. That you should be able, because sometimes people come and work here, and you contribute to a scheme, and maybe you move to another company within. In certain instances, you lose those rights that you have in that scheme, because it was for that particular organization. And you move maybe to Ghana, so you lose what you have been accumulating in Togo. So I think I have given a better background. Let me just say that, let me go further into some of these things. Now, Article 2 there, of course, it talks about the guiding principles. Article 3 talks about that social protection is a right. It is not a privilege. Let me repeat. Social protection is a right. It's not a privilege. This is the position that Africa has taken. And it is, this protocol is saying to the government of Togo that social protection in Togo is a right. You don't get it because you belong to the ruling party, or because you belong to a certain ethnic group, or you are a member of parliament. So the others who are not MPs, they don't get it. So it's a right. And this is very, very important. It affirms the fact that social protection is a right, and underlines that the state has the obligation to ensure that social protection is accessible, available, adequate, affordable, and transparent. Everyone has to get it. And of course, Article 4 talks about social insurance. It calls upon the member states to provide comprehensive, adequate, and accessible social insurance to citizens. Article 5 talks about informal and rural economies. It looks at informal and rural economies and calls upon member states to ensure that people in these sectors be included in social schemes. You can not only enjoy social protection because you work in Lomé, or you work for the government, or you work for this big company or a bank. Even those people in informal and rural economies, they should enjoy social protection. You cannot be denied social protection because you work in an informal economy. You sell in the street, so you don't have access to insurance, to health insurance, to adequate housing, etc., or even access to a loan. The informal economy will still remain informal, but they will have access to social protection. Most of us, we are what we are because of the informal economy. If you ask me where I buy most of my vegetables in Addis Ababa, I buy them in informal economy. That's why I go and negotiate. This is renewable. And of course, other than just helping the informal economy, but most of us, we buy from the informal economy. I don't know about your market, whether it is formal or informal, but I know that after this at 1 o'clock, I'll be rushing to the market and I'll start negotiating. And I'll be speaking French and I'll be trying to understand and negotiate and all that. That is, but those people, do they have insurance? Do they have a pension? Do they have what is the other thing? All those kind of things. Most of them don't, because they cannot afford to contribute to those health insurance or medical aid. But they have to have, whether you are in rural economies or you are in informal economy, you have to have access to social protection. Article 6 talks about unemployment and underemployment. That deals with, that says that it calls upon state parties to provide unemployment benefits. That if you are unemployed, you should have access to benefits, to invest in job creation and training. Article 7 talks about migrants, refugees, and displaced persons and stateless persons. Let me take a minute on this one. It concerns migrants and all that, and it calls upon the government of Togo to ensure that these categories are protected in terms of social protection programs, which responds to the needs and context of their situation, and with adequate access to benefits, including portability arrangements. That when refugees are in this country, they should have access to social protection that meet their needs. You cannot say, you are from Ghana, or you are from Burkina Faso, or you are from Niger, so you are not covered. You should be covered, whatever. If it is the provision of free ARVs to all Togolese, it means that they also, as refugees, stateless people, they have to have free access to ARVs in this country. The other one talks about women and girls. Article 8 and Article 9 talks about family protection, that women should have access to social protection. If it is, of course, an issue of legal protection, they should not be denied inheritance, because maybe according to the culture of Togo, a woman cannot inherit after the husband has passed away, or the male is male. So family protection. Older persons, there is a protocol on older persons. And I want you to congratulate Togo that in 2021 you ratified it. There is a protocol, of course, on persons with disability. You have signed it, you still have to ratify it. So you have got two protocols that are under my care that you need to ratify. So, Member of Parliament, Honorable Member, when you go to Parliament, the ordinary Parliament Assembly, please go and represent. Still need to ratify, but we have ratified the one on older persons. We have to implement it. It talks about children and young. I had already given birth to children, so I always see those 20 days. But I cannot. We decided only to have 2 children. So even if my sister here gives me a girl and I'm pregnant, they will say it's not your wife, because I only marry one wife. So unless I make her the second wife. So I cannot enjoy those 20 days. So it is saying here, it is not only maternity, it is also paternity. That men should be able to take paternity leave and go and take care of their wives and their children, their child. So it's something that is progressive. Article 16 talks about death and survivors' benefits. It talks about, beyond the realms of the classical social security. and model by calling for the provision of social protection to the survivors of catastrophic events such as man-made or natural disasters, that they should be taken care of those survivors. Yes, the government might provide during the time of calamity for the bereaved family, like maybe the coffin, the food and other things, and the grave. But it says those education, that education should be free, it should have access to education through social protection programs, including cash transfers, food and nutrition, and it calls for that. That it should not only just be food, but it should be nutritious food, and it should be a right. Social protection is a right. So food is a right, and it should be nutritious. You don't just provide food, it should be nutritious. Article 20 talks about water and sanitation. That is a right to live in a clean environment. So the city of Lomé, you should be able to make sure that sewage, the collection of rubble and rubbish and everything, should be done as a right to the citizens of this city. We should not enjoy staying in squalor and dirty environment and say, well, this is Africa, so we get used to it. Environment and climate change, you read through that. Governance and administration of national social protection systems. That governance is very, very important for the delivery of social protection finance. Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Sometimes I become so fast for the interpretation. And also financing is very, very important for social protection to be realized as a right. And lastly, it should come from the budget of Togo. I know that most of the time I'm concluding now because I've shot by 3 minutes. I'm concluding. It is incumbent upon the government of Togo to ensure that all social protection rights are funded from the physical, from the domestic resources. Yes, some countries, they are doing well in social protection. But when you go deeper, you find that it is funded by partners or by donors. Until social protection in Africa is funded from the domestic resources, we will not really be proud that we are providing our citizens with that. The rest are just normal. Now, what is the way forward? The way forward is for the government of Togo to sign get all the 15 member states. It needs only 15 ratifications. And then the protocol then comes into force. So Togo is going to be the first country in Africa that is going to ratify this protocol. I thought you were going to clap hands because, yeah, you are going to be the first country because there are only 2 countries. I will check on you. We are here in Togo, and Togo is going to be the first country because I know that Togo is committed to the African agenda and to its citizens. So in a nutshell, let me ask now all the non-governmental organizations, including the media, that you should make this protocol, the awareness of this protocol everywhere. The media is very, very important. Now, the CSOs and NGOs and non-governmental organizations, non-state actors, make awareness through your own organizations. Let your constituencies know about this protocol. Provide training and capacity building, including the capacity building of focal points in the government departments. Support state actors in technical and financial ways to ensure that the process of ratification, which needs resources, of course, it is also smooth So it is also incumbent upon every citizen, all organizations, including APSP, including this platform, that you support the ratification process. Now, you have to know how the national process of ratification goes here in Togo. Know it. It differs from country to country. Know the process, of course, the Ministry of Justice and Legal Affairs. Know the process. The cabinet, know the process. The legislation, know the process. And how signatories are done. Is it the head of state? Is it the Minister of Foreign Affairs? And until submission. But the most important thing, if there's any representative from the Ministry of Justice, do we have any representative here? It might be a lawyer in the Ministry of Health or the Ministry of Solidarity or Social Development. Please take time to take everyone here, not today, through the process of ratification as far as the Constitution of Togo is concerned, because each country has got its own system of ratifying treaties. Take them through so that the ministry responsible for social protection should be able to initiate the process, because if they don't know, they cannot initiate it. With those words, let me thank you so much for listening, and let me apologize to the interpreters, and because I wanted to save time, I became so fast at times. And thank you for indulgence and for understanding. Now, at this time, of course, I hand over to the, because we have got to see you and him. Oh, it's you. Okay, I hand over to you. Now I want to open, whether there is 5 minutes or 1 minute left, just give them the opportunity to ask questions.
Thanks for that, for your presentation, and also give me 1 minute left. Je vais donc essayer de faire le summarize. Je crois que nous avons tous entendu le message contenu dans ce protocole. C'est pour la première fois que nous avons un instrument, un outil qui tient compte donc de l'Afrique et que les autres continents n'ont pas. Ce protocole est un protocole unifié qui parle du citoyen. Donc la différence n'existe plus, que vous soyez togolais, nigérien, sud-africain, où que vous soyez, de pouvoir bénéficier de la protection sociale. La Covid nous a donné la leçon. Vous avez vu quand il s'est agi de prendre soin pendant cette période de nos frères et sœurs qui sont des autres pays, nous n'avons pas pu le faire. Parce que la loi ne nous permet pas de le faire et nous devons penser d'abord à nous avant de passer aux autres. Mais maintenant, on parle d'une seule et même voix. Et c'est la première fois qu'on a un instrument où tous les chefs d'État se sont entendus dans la définition de la protection sociale. Si vous voyez les institutions, la Banque mondiale a sa définition de la protection sociale, le Fonds, FMI, l'OMS, l'Organisation internationale de la protection du travail, l'UNICEF, chacun d'entre eux a sa définition de la protection sociale. C'est la première définition unifiée qui existe au niveau de l'Afrique et sur laquelle tout le monde s'est entendu. Ça a pris plus de 6 ans pour arriver là, à la sécurité sociale. Deuxième élément, c'est la politique qui doit nous permettre donc, de mettre cela en marche. C'est pour cela que nous devons nous engager, c'est le message de notre frère. On ne pourra jamais atteindre le développement de nos pays, de notre pays, le Togo, si les populations n'ont pas accès à la protection sociale. Et si ce protocole continental n'est pas ratifié, nous ne pouvons donc pas avancer. Il faut financer ce protocole de manière endogène. Nous avons vu, lorsque les partenaires financiers techniques se retirent, le système s'effondre. Dans ce protocole, les États ont été invités à trouver des moyens endogènes. Cela veut dire que nous devons maintenant regarder et lire nos budgets à la loupe de la protection sociale et les rendre sensibles à la protection sociale. Nous sommes invités à cela. Et ce protocole que les gouvernements ont voulu de leur propre gré, les invite à trouver les moyens pour financer les systèmes ou les programmes de protection sociale de manière endogène. Et cela est possible. Nous avons les ressources. Il faut avoir juste des budgets opérationnels qui nous permettent de respecter les 15% qui ont été déjà retenus par nos États pour financer les systèmes de protection sociale. Jusqu'à présent, aucun des États ne le respecte. Notre ami a fini en nous montrant qu'est-ce qui reste à faire. Il suffit que le Togo ratifie et que 14 autres pays ratifient ce protocole pour qu'il rentre en ligne de force. Depuis février 2022, ce protocole a été adopté, mais les États ne l'ont pas ratifié. Il nous faut ratifier. Notre pays est un pays de paix, nous l'avons toujours dit, et nous appelons tout le monde. Le Togo va être encore le modèle comme il a toujours fait. C'est pour cela que nous voulons compter sur chacun. Et c'est ce qu'il a dit. Les organisations de la société civile, les organisations syndicales, les membres du Parlement, chacun doit jouer sa partition. Les partenaires, les responsables techniques, nous devons tous comprendre comment est-ce qu'au Togo, nous procédons pour adopter, pour ratifier des lois. Une fois que nous connaissons la démarche, nous devons nous mobiliser. Rappeler aux premiers responsables de notre pays qui se sont engagés pendant 6 ans au niveau d'Addis Abeba, ils ont envoyé des experts pour aller travailler sur ce document. Le document est là, il est bien prêt, ils l'ont adopté, il est clair et il ne laisse personne à l'écart. Il est inclusif, vous avez pu le voir, les femmes, les hommes, les jeunes, les personnes âgées, les handicapés, les acteurs de l'économie informelle. Là, tous les secteurs sont pris en compte et c'est écrit dans un français limpide, pas académique. Tout le monde peut le lire. Qu'est-ce qu'on peut encore souhaiter de mieux? L'Union africaine ne viendra pas ratifier à notre place, mais c'est à nous de le faire. Et donc, ils ne sont qu'au secrétariat technique, ils ont fini leur travail. Nous devons maintenant reprendre ce document et souhaiter qu'on le ratifie. Et c'est à cette seule condition que le Togo démontrera encore que nous sommes une terre d'accueil, nous sommes un modèle, nous sommes un pays en avant où le système de protection sociale pour nous est pilier. Et donc, comme il a dit, nous sommes tous conviés à jouer notre partition. Je voudrais donc laisser la parole à qui souhaiterait la prendre pour poser des questions, pour pouvoir donc enrichir le débat et que nous puissions partir d'ici avec des éléments qui nous permettront donc que notre pays puisse atteindre le protocole. C'est l'enjeu de la réflexion de ce matin. Le bal est ouvert. Honorable député.
Bonjour l'assistance, bonjour madame la prise. Je voudrais féliciter l'initiative et féliciter aussi l'exposant pour la clarté de son exposé. Et je voudrais relever aussi que ce protocole est le bienvenu dans la mesure où quand vous avez les lois qui sont très bien faites, mais ça voudrait rien dire pour la population qui est en train de souffrir quelque part et que le volet social et la sécurité sociale et surtout le bien-être intégral d'une personne doit être prise en compte. Et le protocole est d'autant plus important à nos yeux, puisqu'il intègre la population entière, d'où qu'elle vienne, et ce qui tend à croire que le peuple l'Afrique sera une Afrique unie et solidaire à 3 degrés. Et pour ce qui concerne la ratification, nous connaissons la procédure, et on aurait souhaité aussi qu'à cet acte soient invités les membres du gouvernement. demande au gouvernement parce qu'eux, ils doivent être sensibilisés. C'est eux de déposer à la table de l'Assemblée le projet d'habilitation ou l'habilitation à ratifier. Et l'Assemblée, soyez rassurés que dès que nous aurons la demande sur la table, on ne va pas hésiter un seul instant à ratifier, à donner l'autorisation ou l'habilitation à l'État pour ratifier le protocole. Aussi, voudrais-je solliciter qu'au sortir ou à la fin, qu'on puisse constituer quand même un comité de lobby, hein, un comité de lobby qui irait vers le gouvernement et vers la présidente de l'Assemblée nationale pour qu'elle en fasse, dès qu'elle est saisie pour l'autorisation d'habilitation, qu'elle puisse inscrire ça sur l'agenda de l'Assemblée comme une priorité, parce que c'est important d'adopter les lois, de signer des protocoles du genre et c'est important de les ratifier afin de pouvoir les mettre en œuvre ou de les internaliser. Bon, je voudrais relever aussi que des fois au niveau régional, on signe des protocoles et par secteur, c'est par secteur d'activité, mais il faut remonter aussi dans les lois, par exemple, pas dans les lois, dans les conventions et dans les traités régionaux, vérifier si au niveau africain, s'il y a une uniformisation dans les tests, parce que quand vous dites, par exemple, quand on dit qu'on se retrouve partout, et avec les mêmes droits en tant qu'Africains, qu'on puisse avoir la même protection sociale, qu'on soit au Togo, au Nigeria, ou non, bon, dès qu'on ratifie le protocole, est-ce que dans les législations nationales, est-ce qu'il y a une uniformité qui oblige, par exemple, au niveau de la loi sur la sécurité sociale des États, est-ce que les lois sont déjà intégrées, ont déjà intégré cet aspect? Ça va être difficile parce que le protocole peut être en décalage aussi avec les lois nationales. Bon, est-ce qu'il y a un travail de fond qui a été fait au préalable afin que, à la ratification, qu'on puisse se dire, OK, nous sommes en mesure de mettre en œuvre sans embâche le protocole? Bon, en attendant, je crois que je vais m'arrêter là et puis attendre s'il y a encore des observations à faire ou des contributions. Je vais commencer.
Merci beaucoup, merci infiniment à l'honorable député et pour l'engagement pris et le conseil donné également. Il faudra qu'on approche les membres du gouvernement. Je peux vous assurer qu'on les a invités. Ils se sont fait représenter jusqu'à la présidence, le secrétariat. Ils se sont fait représenter. On va continuer le lobby comme sur vos conseils. On va peut-être voir si on a la possibilité de refaire une mini-séance d'information et de sensibilisation. Pourquoi pas également, si vous nous permettez, on sera disponible pour venir au niveau de l'Assemblée pour faire une présentation à 1 heure pour pouvoir donc faire ce travail à lobby, comme vous l'avez dit. Et je laisserai après mon collègue répondre parce que c'est lui qui a fait la présentation. J'ai au bout du lèvre les réponses, mais il se chargera donc de les donner. Merci infiniment pour votre disponibilité et la suggestion du comité également. Je voudrais donc inviter tous ceux qui sont ici et qui souhaiteraient être membres de ce comité restreint-là, de commencer à réfléchir et à se manifester parce que ça fait déjà partie de notre feuille de route pour que notre pays puisse donc ratifier ça. Je vais voir s'il y a encore d'autres doigts en l'air. Au fond de la salle, oui, monsieur qui me fait face, c'est le camarade. Voilà, je crois bien.
Merci madame. C'est le camarade Asia. Je suis membre du CTE. Moi, c'est l'article 37 qui me préoccupe par rapport au retrait volontaire des États. Nous allons faire un lobbying pour la ratification et le texte permet à l'État de se retirer 3 ans après. Je n'ai pas bien compris. Je ne sais pas si on peut m'expliquer mieux. Pourquoi cet article? Ce sont les instances. Et je vais encore revenir sur ce que l'honorable député a dit par rapport à l'uniformisation des tests ou bien des dispositions de ce test dans tous les pays. Si le Togo ratifie le test, le Togo a mis la protection sociale dans son truc à financer pour tout résident togolais, tout résident comme l'article 1, et que j'ai le même droit, mais je vais dans un autre pays, ce pays n'a pas évolué. Est-ce que lui a un mécanisme ou bien un cadre d'évaluation ou bien de suivi par rapport à ça, pour voir si tous ces pays-là peuvent évoluer ensemble pour que cette protection-là soit accessible à tous les résidents, comme nous le disons, de toute l'Afrique. Merci.
Ok, merci. Notre collègue a pris bonne note. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres doigts en l'air? Oui, le SG Semons. Est-ce qu'il y a encore un autre doigt, s'il vous plaît? Please remove your head. I want to see if I have people who raise their hand there. No? Okay. There are 2, 3. Okay, the DS also for GSA and then from the FTVC. Ok. Cher SG Semons, vous avez la parole.
Merci. Docteur Hôtel. Je voudrais d'abord commencer par dire que l'AHODIKPE, SG Semons, je suis secrétaire général de l'Union nationale des syndicats indépendants du Togo, mais j'ai aussi eu le privilège de représenter la régionale africaine de la CSI Afrique, au début des discussions qui ont amené à l'adoption de l'agenda 2063 et sur la question du protocole en question. C'est un privilège parce que je n'étais pas là sous le casquette du Togolais, je suis sous le casquette régional Afrique CSI Afrique. Et c'est donc à ce titre que je voudrais d'abord faire la boutade suivante. Je crois savoir que pour la naissance de la CEDEAO, le Togo a été le numéro 1. Pourquoi le Togo ne serait-il pas le numéro 1 dans la ratification du protocole? CEDEAO, c'est il y a 2 ans. Pourquoi pas la ratification du protocole ne serait pas en enseignement? La ratification est un pas et nous sommes donc invités en tant qu'organisation syndicale, organisation de la société civile, à faire le lobby nécessaire. Mais il faut aussi que nous ayons en tête que ce qui, des fois, freine nos États, c'est les conséquences financières, c'est-à-dire le poids financier que va constituer après la mise en œuvre des documents ou bien des traités, des protocoles que nous ratifions. Et ça fait hésiter. Donc nous devons déjà nous préparer en tant qu'organisation syndicale ou bien en tant qu'avec nos partenaires de la société civile à voir dans quelle mesure nous pouvons faire en sorte que la question de la protection sociale soit prise en compte avec beaucoup de sérieux dans nos budgets nationaux. Et dire que cela soit pris en compte dans nos budgets nationaux, ça nous renvoie à la question du dialogue social. Et ce qui veut dire que c'est un clin d'œil que nous faisons. D'abord, pour nous, organisations représentant les travailleurs et le peuple togolais, à faire le nécessaire qu'il faut, mais en même temps, à travers les représentants du gouvernement, à prendre la part que doit, à donner la part que doivent occuper les organisations syndicales, les organisations de la société civile, dans le dialogue social, notamment dans le processus d'adoption des budgets. C'est pour ça que C'est ça que je voudrais attirer l'attention parce que j'ai l'impression que le dialogue social au Togo, eh bien, va des aides. Je vous remercie.
Merci, je voudrais inviter le SG Baba.
Merci camarades. Je remercie le présentateur pour la pertinence des informations communiquées à l'Assemblée. Dans son développement, il a parlé de la vulgarisation. Pour vulgariser un document, il faut l'avoir en possession. Je voudrais le demander sur quel site de l'Union africaine nous pouvons trouver la panoplie de documents qu'il a eu à citer les protocoles pour qu'au sein de notre organisation, nous puissions faire une large diffusion. Ça, c'est la première préoccupation. La deuxième préoccupation, dans la présentation, nous avions vu, c'est-à-dire qu'on nous a donné l'information que la population africaine est composée en majorité de 60% de population jeune. Mais comme maintenant on met en place l'agenda pour 2063, ça voudrait dire que les jeunes d'aujourd'hui ne seront pas concernés par cette action de protection sociale. Donc c'est ma deuxième préoccupation. Je vous remercie.
Merci. SG Antoine.
Merci, Madame, merci, Docteur Gisilène, pour m'avoir laissé la parole. Je voudrais faire des suggestions par rapport à la question de ratification du protocole par le Togo. Je pense que bon nombre de prédécesseurs l'ont déjà souligné, mais il me paraît très important de nous faire cette suggestion. Ne serait-il pas possible que les organisateurs de cette conférence puissent faire imprimer ce protocole en forme de brevia pour pouvoir mettre à la disposition, que ce soit l'ensemble des députés actuels, que ce soit l'ensemble des membres, les transmettre par courrier à la présidence et aux organisations de la société civile pour faire en sorte que le plaidoyer et le lobbying puisse passer. Et vous l'avez déjà dit, et Madame la députée aussi l'a souligné, il serait très important que nous nous engagions au niveau de nos organisations de la société civile en appui également avec le comité de suivi qui sera mis en place pour que nous puissions continuer les actions de plaidoyer pour la ratification. Et le camarade Semons l'a si bien souligné que les organisations syndicales que nous sommes et que nous représentons ici, nous avons une lourde responsabilité à continuer dans le cadre du dialogue social pour mener des actions parce que ça fait depuis des années que nous parlons de cette question de protection sociale. Et ces derniers temps, le gouvernement a essayé de prendre un certain nombre de tests en lien avec la protection sociale qui s'est inscrite, il faut le faire constater. Donc le protocole ne vient que appuyer le processus. Donc je pense que le gouvernement ou le Parlement ne doit pas hésiter pour pouvoir aller dans le sens de la ratification. Donc c'est à nous de continuer à faire le plaidoyer, à faire en sorte que dans le processus du dialogue social, que nous puissions prendre les mécanismes et autres. Madame Docteur, au Nigeria, tout récemment, vous l'avez si souligné, nous avions également, dans le cadre de la conférence sur la protection sociale, le plaidoyer, vous l'avez si bien souligné, nous avons des leviers, des systèmes pour pouvoir mobiliser des ressources. Donc nous pouvons aussi continuer au plan local à repenser sur ces stratégies-là, comme l'a dit le camarade Semons, pour faire des propositions concrètes au gouvernement dans le cadre de la mobilisation des ressources financières pour accompagner le processus. Je vous remercie.
Merci donc, c'est vrai, monsieur le secrétaire général, vous avez raison. C'est d'ailleurs pour cela que depuis il y a 2 semaines, l'organisation régionale africaine a pris sur elle de renforcer les capacités des leaders syndicaux et des activistes sur le financement de la protection sociale. Qu'est-ce que c'est? Où est-ce que nous pouvons retrouver les ressources? Comment nous pouvons mobiliser ces ressources de manière endogène? Qu'est-ce que nous devons faire pour que nous financions nos systèmes et programmes de protection sociale avec nos propres ressources? Comment est-ce que nous pouvons avoir donc des budgets, des lignes opérationnelles en lien avec la protection sociale et ne pas avoir un budget général et nous assurer que réellement ces financements-là seront dévolus à la protection sociale, qu'il pleuve ou qu'il neige. Nous avons donc un outil au niveau du BIT qui permet donc de faire ce travail rapide. Et si vous voulez, la CSI Afrique est prête à accompagner toutes les ONG qui souhaitent renforcer leur capacité dans ce domaine-là. L'ONG Semons En Afrique est disponible parce que nous sommes un centre de recherche pour dispenser, pour accompagner la compréhension donc, de ces mécanismes. Vous savez qu'il y a les flux illicites, il y a les taxes. Comment faire? Et aujourd'hui même, il y a un document de politique syndicale pour financer la protection sociale. Il y a un document au niveau de Semons En Afrique qui, avec la plateforme africaine, invite à rechercher les gens des moyens pour financer la protection sociale, parce que l'argent est le nerf de la guerre. Et donc, les gouvernements ont peur, s'ils n'ont pas les ressources, ils ne peuvent pas s'engager. Notre ami Protocole, qui est un groupe d'auteurs, a beaucoup d'expérience, c'est pourquoi les bonnes pratiques, il va nous informer là-dessus pour nous rassurer que nous ne risquons rien à nos engagements pour la ratification du protocole.
Thank you so much. Let me also thank you and thank the Member of Parliament for this intervention. Of course, it is very, very important that members of Parliament are capacitated, the awareness is made, because you are the ones who make laws. And when this protocol, after you have ratified it, it has to, if you choose, because some countries choose to have an act of Parliament on social protection. Some, of course, they cascade it in all the laws that exist. They amend the laws that exist to speak to social protection. Whether they are laws on education, agriculture, shelter, etc. All these articles that are talking about your persons with disabilities, older persons, and also. But it depends on how you do it. But it is very, very important so that when you do a law, you do a law that would be inclusive, no one is left out, that will be proud of. And I want to believe that the platform here, including APSP, we can work together to ensure that with the flag of Parliament, to see how we can do this. It could just be a half day, something like this, because it's very, very important that our political leaders and our representatives, they know when you take it down to debate it, they know what they are debating. And they are able to come up with a law that the citizens of this country will be proud of. And also, yes, of course, for me, a committee that will drive this ratification is very, very important and progressive suggestion. And it should include, let me emphasize, it should include all stakeholders. Of course, you know how you run your government. That maybe at a certain level, all stakeholders, including the media, whatever, they are part of it. But when it gets to a certain level, it is according to how you run the country, or your constitution demands. A member of Parliament, let me plead with you. You have a member of Parliament who represents Togo at the Pan-African Parliament. That representative can move, suggest, or remove or propose at the Pan-African Parliament. that the Pan-African Parliament should come up with a model law on social protection. Currently, we have got a model law on disability. The moment the disability protocol comes into force, around 8 countries have ratified. Maybe by next week we will be having 9. We are left with 7 for it to come into force. There's already a model law adopted by the Pan-African Parliament. So it will be easier for members of state parties now to develop a law or to review their laws that exist on disability. Looking at that model law, it is for Africa. So we can have a model law on social protection. It is developed by and I participate in that, of course, in the development on behalf of the Commission. So we can have that model law, and it helps in implementing this protocol, because the model law is there that we have agreed in Africa. The Article 37 of withdrawal, those are what we call concluding articles. They're always there in every treaty or on every protocol. And on withdrawal, it talks about 3 years that you can withdraw after 3 years of entry into force, and it should be communicated. However, Article 37.3 says, withdrawal shall not affect any obligation of the withdrawing state party prior to the withdrawal. So if you have you're already implementing and certain rights, those rights are not going to be also be withdrawn. They are not going to be withdrawn. That's what this article is saying. You are obligated to continue with those rights that you have been implementing before your withdrawal. Because, I mean, a protocol is an agreement which is entered by 2 parties. The lawyers will explain better than I do. I don't want to claim anything and I mislead you. But it's an agreement that is entered by parties. And where there are parties that enter into an agreement, they can withdraw from that agreement. Like people withdraw from an agreement of marriage, they divorce or something like that. And the Article 29 talks about monitoring. There is monitoring and there is also implementation. And state parties to this protocol, per article, I think it's 26 of the African Charter on Human and Resource Rights, you will be obligated to send a report to the African Union, to the African Commission on Human and Resource Rights, the Banjul Commission, as we call it. So this is how they monitor. They also visit, of course. And APRM, the African Peer Review Mechanism, which is based in South Africa, they also will include questionnaires regarding regarding the implementation of the protocol. And also, if the way of ensuring that there is monitoring, if I can maybe quote. No. Yeah, this one was not. This one is the presentation. This one is the article. It's the protocol itself. I wanted to just quote something here. Then I think I will be done. It says here, the African court shall be seized with matters of interpretation and application of this protocol to those state parties. Meaning that it is very, the Banjul Commission, the African Court will be part of interpretation and monitoring as well as implementation of this. So there will always be this. But for the Commission, where I come from, we monitor the implementation through the implementation and all that, through the implementation of the social